Broadwater County farmers are assessing the damage following a powerful hailstorm on Sunday afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for making KRTV your choice for news. I'm Shannon New.
And I'm Tim McGonigal. Golf ball size hail devastates farmers in parts of central Montana. Storms Sunday flattened the 80-acre barley field at Bruce Seed Farm near Townsend. General Manager Gord Pierce says damage is expected to run in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Pierce says the farm didn't carry hail insurance and that the Townsend area hasn't seen a storm like this in over 2 decades. The storm came just 4 days before the harvest, but now they're looking at a 100% loss.
Those are the seed that's actually lost. There's virtually nothing left here, so which is quite unfortunate. This was a very good crop.
While the rye and barley seeds fields did not survive through the storm, the farm did have about a third of harvesting done from other crops.
Meanwhile, business is back to usual at Lake McDonald Lodge in Glacier National Park after Sunday's heavy rains overwhelmed storm drains, causing about an inch of water to flood the lobby there. Witnesses say they saw the water seeping in beneath the bottom of the front doors. Around 25 employees hustled to keep out of the sewages there. The general manager says in his 10 years with the company, he's never seen such a significant amount of rain come down as hard as it did in such a short period of time. Lodge staff are completing a review of the incident, and one of the final recommendations will be to ensure that the storm drains will not get overwhelmed again. Storm Track meteorologist Mike Rollins is tracking more storms popping up for this evening.
Mike, could we be dealing with more severe storms in the next few hours?
No, I don't think so. Our risk for severe weather is fairly low this evening. We lost a lot of the moisture that we had yesterday. Nonetheless, I'm keeping my eye on a couple showers and isolated thunderstorms out there right now. You see, just south of Great Falls here, right along the Missouri, we've got one little shower trying to pop up. It is not having much success holding together. You can see it weakening here as it moves toward the electric city. But that doesn't mean we won't get a couple sprinkles out of it. Farther south and west, down toward Helena, thunderstorms popping up here near Butte and also southeast of Missoula. We'll keep an eye on these through the evening hours. Clouds increasing in the electric city right now. It's 83 degrees with a very light wind. This evening, storms possible, not likely, but they're possible. Could see an isolated thunderstorm hanging around through the late evening hours. I'll keep an eye on the radar and I'll show you when our next round of severe weather arrives coming up in Storm Tracker weather.
All right, thanks, Mike. Cooler weather and even some rain is helping crews make progress against the 8,200-acre Roaring Lion fire southwest of Hamilton. But even with the weather helping firefighting progress, the projected containment date for the big fire isn't until the end of September. The latest maps show the size of the fire hasn't changed much since the weekend, with fire crews having containment around 30% of the fire, which erupted over a week ago out of the Roaring Lion drainage. Even with the cooler weather that moved in over the weekend, crews are still seeing some moderate fire behavior and some isolated torching of trees. Much of the work now is focused on doing mop-up operations around the private properties and homes on the east and southern flanks of the fire and dealing with any spot fires that break out. Crews are also working to build more hand lines above the slopes on the southern edge of the fire to tie in with natural fire breaks and constructing dozer lines to tie in with the fire lines that were built around the observation fire earlier this summer. All of the Stage 2 evacuation restrictions were lifted by the Ravalli County Sheriff's Office Sunday evening. Some Stage 1 warnings and alerts remain in effect. Emergency crews responded to a grass fire southwest of Vaughan this afternoon. That fire began around 1 o'clock near 37 Taft Road. Fire officials say that the property owner was welding in his shop near the door. A gust of wind blew some sparks outside into the grass, sparking the fire. The owner attempted to put the fire out before calling firefighters. Volunteer fire crews responding to the scene include Vaughan, Black Eagle, Manchester, Sun Prairie, and Gore Hill. They had the fire knocked down by 1:35. Vaughan fire officials say it burned about 5 acres. No injuries have been reported.
Delta Airlines experienced a system-wide glitch this morning with flights across the country experiencing delays. But luckily, flyers out of Great Falls were mostly unaffected. Great Falls International Airport Director John Faulkner says that they switched to paper manifests and tickets for the morning flights, but there weren't any major delays. He says that because the flight crews and planes for the morning flights had arrived the night before, only minor adjustments were needed to keep the flights on track. Faulkner adds that this is a good reason for travelers to still arrive to the airport an hour and a half to 2 hours early.
Another good reason to print your boarding pass the night before or use the phone app so you have it on your phone the night before. That way when you come to the airport you have proof that you've printed a boarding pass and those types of things. But yes, they'll have to go back to manual systems and creating a manual manifest.
And Faulkner says that passengers' vetting programs were still operating, so safety was not compromised.
Despite being short-staffed, law enforcement patrolling this year's Montana State Fair had a relatively easy week. Cascade County Sheriff Bob Edwards says this year's fair was mostly uneventful and crowds were well behaved. He also noted there were no cases of minors in possession of alcohol. Sheriff Edwards says that's a big change in behavior at the fair compared to when he started back in 2011. He recalls at that time there were several instances of fights as well as underage drinking. He believes the change is due to law enforcement's no-nonsense approach for violators. The Montana State Fair wrapped up on Saturday.
The Montana Department of Justice announced changes to Montana license plates and registration tabs today. The new plates will use larger, bolder, slightly rounded font, and there'll be more space between each letter and number. This new design aims to make it easier for law enforcement to read the plates, and they're already being distributed to county treasurers' offices around the state. Registration tabs will be changed this fall to show the numerical month and year. Numbers for the month will be black on white background. The year will be white lettering on a black background. After hitting a few speed bumps, the ride-sharing service Uber has finally launched across the state. But it's not the issue with starting up that's concerning one Montana insurance agent. It's whether the drivers hitting the streets are actually insured. Ever since the 2015 legislature passed the bill to allow companies like Uber to enter Montana, insurance issues have been and continue to be a concern. Uber requires its drivers to have their own independent car insurance in addition to the insurance Uber provides. Uber does not consider drivers employees, rather contractors, which leads to concerns about possible gaps in coverage, like when a driver is using the app but waiting for a rider.
That time in between where they're trolling for a fare maybe, that could be considered a gap in coverage because it is more of a commercial risk and the average auto insurance policy does not cover that. So if that person was in an accident, their insurance company may be able to deny coverage on that. So then the driver would now be responsible for that accident and any damage that occurred.
Farmers Insurance will launch additional coverage called an endorsement on August 15th to protect drivers. Walters urges all prospective Uber drivers to speak with their insurance agent to understand coverage prior to driving for a ride-sharing company.